I couldn't breathe. The words from the bank manager echoed in my mind long after I hung up the phone. "Mr. Foster, you need to come to the branch immediately. And sir, please don't come alone. Bring your sons. Don't come alone." In 67 years on this earth, I'd never heard a bank manager say those words. Margaret had been gone for 2 months now, taken by a sudden heart attack that left me standing in our kitchen one Tuesday morning, holding a cup of coffee that would never be drunk. For 8 weeks, I'd been going through the motions of dismantling a shared life, closing accounts, forwarding mail, updating insurance policies, the bureaucracy of death. I thought I'd seen all there was to see. I was wrong. My name is Daniel Foster. I was born in Worcester, Massachusetts in 1958, married Margaret Ann Brennan in 1982, and spent 43 years believing I knew everything about the woman who shared my bed, my home, my life. We raised 2 sons in a modest colonial in Newton. I worked as a civil engineer. Margaret taught kindergarten for 30 years. We were ordinary people living an ordinary life, or so I thought. That Wednesday morning, I called James first. He's our oldest, 42 now, a corporate attorney in downtown Boston with 2 kids of his own. "Dad, what's this about?" he asked, and I could hear the concern in his voice. James had been checking on me almost daily since Margaret died, worried about me rattling around in the empty house. "I don't know," I said honestly. "The bank manager called. Said he found something unusual while processing your mother's accounts. Wants to meet with all of us." "Unusual how?" He wouldn't say over the phone. There was a pause. "Then I'll pick up Robert. We'll be there in an hour." Robert, our younger son at 39, teaches high school history in Cambridge. He'd taken Margaret's death harder than James, probably because he and his mother had been especially close. She'd always understood his sensitive nature, his love of books, and quiet conversations. He was her gentle soul. I met them in the parking lot of the Citizens Bank on Beacon Street at Hanway 30. The sky was that particular shade of gray that Boston does so well in November, threatening rain, but never quite delivering. James emerged from his Mercedes first, dressed in one of his expensive suits. Robert got out from the passenger side, hands shoved deep in the pockets of his worn corduroy jacket. "Dad," James said, gripping my shoulder. "You okay?" "I'm fine, just confused." "What do you think this is about?" Robert asked. "I have no idea." But the manager sounded serious. We walked into the branch together, 3 foster men trying to understand why a bank would request such a strange meeting. The manager, a thin man in his 50s named Kenneth Palmer, met us in the lobby and ushered us into a small conference room. He closed the door carefully like he was sealing us into a vault. "Mr. Foster, I appreciate you bringing your sons," he began, settling into a chair across from us. He had a manila folder in front of him, thick with papers. "What I'm about to show you is sensitive. That's why I asked that you not come alone." "Kenneth, you're making me nervous," I said. "Just tell us what this is about." He opened the folder and slid a document across the table. It was a bank statement, but not one I recognized. "This is an account opened by your wife in 1996. Account number ending in 7743. Are you familiar with it?" I stared at the paper. Margaret Foster was listed as the primary account holder. The address was our home address. But I'd never seen this account before. "No," I said slowly. "I've never seen this." I didn't think so. We found it while consolidating accounts after Mrs. Foster's passing. It's been making monthly automatic payments for 28 years. "Payments to who?" James asked, leaning forward. Kenneth slid another document across. "A man named Michael Sullivan, $3,500 per month every month without fail since November 1996. The room went silent. I did the math in my head. 512 months, 28 years, nearly 2 million. "That's impossible," I said. "We don't know anyone named Michael Sullivan." "Dad, where did Mom get that kind of money?" Robert asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "The account was funded through separate deposits," Kenneth explained. "Mrs. Foster made monthly transfers from your joint checking account, but also from an inheritance account I found linked to this. It appears she inherited approximately 800,000 in 1996 from her parents' estate. Margaret's parents, they died within months of each other that year. Car accident, and then cancer. I remembered the funeral, remembered holding Margaret as she wept. But I didn't remember any inheritance of that size." "She never mentioned an inheritance that large," I said. The account was set up specifically to remain separate from your joint finances, Kenneth said carefully. I'm showing you this because the automatic payment stopped when Mrs. Foster passed. Mr. Sullivan has been contacting us, asking about the situation. He wants to speak with you. Why would my mother be sending someone $3,500 a month for 28 years? James asked, his lawyer instincts kicking in. That's not charity, that's obligation. Kenneth hesitated. Mr. Sullivan indicated that Mrs. Foster was family. Family, I felt the walls closing in. What kind of family? He said she was his aunt, but Margaret only had one sibling, Patrick. Patrick Brennan, her older brother, who died in 1996. The same year this account was opened. The same year everything apparently changed. I need to speak with this Michael Sullivan, I said. Kenneth nodded. He left his contact information. He said he'd been expecting someone to reach out eventually. We left the bank in a daze. James insisted we go to his office to talk, but I couldn't sit in some sterile conference room. I needed to be home in the house where Margaret and I had built our life, where maybe I could find some clue that explained this impossible secret. Both sons followed me back to Newton. We sat in the living room, the same room where we'd held Margaret's wake 2 months ago. The same room where we'd celebrated 43 Christmases. Now it felt like a stage set. Everything familiar suddenly false. We need to call this guy, James said, holding the slip of paper with Michael Sullivan's number. Wait, Robert said. Before we do that, we should try to understand what we're dealing with. Dad, you said Uncle Patrick died in 1996, May of 1996. He was 41, car accident on Route 2 out near Lexington, and Grandma and Grandpa Brennan died right after. Grandpa in July, Grandma in October. It was a terrible year for your mother. Robert was quiet for a moment, thinking, and this account opened in November after everyone was gone. What are you suggesting? James asked. I'm suggesting that maybe this isn't a coincidence. Maybe whatever this is, it's connected to Uncle Patrick's death. I stood up, pacing to the window. Outside, the maple tree Margaret had planted when we first moved in was nearly bare, its leaves scattered across the lawn. She'd loved that tree, said it reminded her of the one in her childhood backyard in Dorchester. There's something else, I said quietly. Something I never told you boys because it didn't seem important, but maybe it is. They both looked at me waiting. Your mother was with Patrick the day he died. She was in the car. The silence that followed was deafening. She was in the accident. James asked. You never told us that. She didn't like to talk about it. Said it was too painful. She had minor injuries, but Patrick died at the scene. She always felt guilty that she survived and he didn't. Did she ever say what happened? Robert asked how the accident occurred. Police reports said he swerved to avoid a deer. Lost control. Single car accident. But your mother never really talked about the details. James stood up, pulling out his phone. I'm calling Michael Sullivan. We need answers. He dialed the number. It rang 3 times before a male voice answered.
Hello, is this Michael Sullivan?
Yes, who's this? My name is James Foster. I'm Margaret Foster's son. I'm here with my father, Daniel, and my brother, Robert. We just came from Citizens Bank. There was a long pause. Then I was wondering when I'd hear from you. I'm sorry about Mrs. Foster. She was a good woman. Can you explain to us why our mother was sending you $3,500 a month for 28 years? James asked, his voice controlled but tight. Another pause. I think that's a conversation we should have in person. Can you come to Waltham? I'm at work until 5, but I could meet you after. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop near Moody Street at 5:30. That gave us 6 hours to sit in uncomfortable silence, to search through Margaret's papers, to try to piece together a puzzle we didn't even know existed. I went up to our bedroom, to the closet where Margaret kept her personal documents. I'd been avoiding the smell of her perfume still lingering on her clothes, avoiding the final dismantling of her presence. But now I had a reason. I needed to find something, anything that explained Michael Sullivan. In a box on the top shelf, I found it. A large envelope unsealed with Patrick written on the front in Margaret's handwriting. Inside were newspaper clippings about the accident, a copy of the police report, and a letter. My hands shook as I unfolded the paper. It was Margaret's handwriting, but the paper was old, yellowed, dated November 1996. My dearest Daniel, it began. If you're reading this, then I'm gone, and you've discovered the payments to Michael. I should have told you years ago, but I was a coward. I was ashamed and I was afraid of losing you. Patrick didn't die because he swerved to avoid a deer. He died because of me. We were arguing that day, fighting about something stupid, something I can't even remember now. I was angry, said something cruel. He turned to yell back at me, and that's when it happened. He wasn't watching the road. The car drifted. By the time he looked forward, we were already off the shoulder, heading for the tree. I survived with cuts and bruises. Patrick died instantly, and I told the police he'd swerved for a deer because I couldn't admit the truth. I couldn't admit that my brother died because I distracted him, because I started a fight. Patrick had a son, Michael. He was 6 months old when Patrick died. Patrick's wife, Linda, was devastated, alone, angry. She knew the truth because I told her in the hospital through tears and apologies. She said she could ruin me, tell everyone what really happened, press charges, or I could help her raise Michael, give him the life Patrick would have given him. It wasn't blackmail. Not really. It was justice. She deserved that money. Michael deserved a father, and since he couldn't have that, he deserved financial security. So, I used my inheritance from Mom and Dad to set up the account. I considered it penance. Blood money, if you will. I know this makes me a coward. I know I should have told you. But I was terrified you'd leave me, that you'd see me as the person who killed her own brother and lied about it. I couldn't bear that. Michael doesn't know the full story. Linda told him I was helping because that's what family does. He thinks I'm the generous aunt. Maybe that's better. Maybe he doesn't need to know that his aunt killed his father. I'm sorry, Daniel. I'm sorry I lied. I'm sorry I carried this alone. I'm sorry I used our money to pay for my sins without telling you. If you hate me for this, I understand. But please don't hate Michael. He's innocent in all this. He's a good kid, grew up to be a good man. Patrick would be proud. With all my love and all my shame. Margaret, I don't know how long I sat there holding that letter. Long enough for tears to dry on my face. Long enough for James to come find me, to read the letter over my shoulder, to call Robert upstairs. We read it together, the three of us, in the bedroom where Margaret had slept beside me for 43 years, keeping this secret locked behind her smile. She killed Uncle Patrick, Robert whispered, and lied about it. It was an accident, James said, but his voice was hollow. An accident she covered up, Robert countered. An accident she paid to keep quiet. She lived with this for 28 years, I said, every month writing that check, remembering what she'd done. We drove to Waltham in silence. Michael Sullivan had suggested a small cafe on Moody Street, the kind of place with mismatched chairs and local art on the walls. We arrived early and sat at a corner table, 3 men waiting to meet the ghost of Margaret's secret life. He walked in at exactly 50:30. I knew him immediately. He had Patrick's build, Patrick's dark hair, Patrick's green eyes. He was 28, wearing scrubs under a jacket. A hospital badge hung from his belt. He saw us, hesitated, then walked over. "Mr. Foster," he said, extending his hand. "Thank you for meeting me." I shook his hand. It was firm, confident. "This is my son, James, and my son, Robert." Michael shook their hands too, then sat down across from us. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Michael said, "I suppose you want to know why Aunt Margaret was sending me money." "We know why," James said. And I saw Michael's eyes widen slightly. "We found a letter," she wrote. "She told us everything." Michael's face went pale. "Everything about the accident, about what really happened to your father." He was quiet for a long time, staring at his hands. Finally, "So, you know it was her fault." "We know it was an accident," I said carefully. "A terrible, tragic accident that she regretted every day of her life. My mother told me 6 months ago." Michael said right before she died. "Cancer. She wanted me to know the truth before she went. Said I deserved to know who Margaret really was." "And what did she tell you?" Robert asked. "That Margaret and my dad were fighting. That Margaret distracted him. That the car crashed and my dad died and Margaret lied to protect herself." He looked up at me, but she also told me that Margaret kept her promise. That every month for my entire life, Margaret made sure I was taken care of. Private school, college, medical school, everything. She paid for everything. "You're a doctor?" I asked. "Physician's assistant. Emergency medicine at Mount Auburn Hospital. I work the night shift, the hard shifts that most people don't want." My mom always said I had a gift for helping people in crisis. That I got that from my dad. His voice cracked slightly. She said Margaret made sure I could pursue it, made sure I didn't have to worry about student loans or debt. Did you ever meet her? Robert asked quietly. Our mother. Michael shook his head. My mom thought it was better if we kept distance. But Margaret sent cards every year on my birthday. Never signed them, but I knew they were from her. And when I graduated from college, from PA school, there was always a card, always anonymous. But I knew. Why did you reach out now? James asked after the payment stopped. Because I wanted to tell her thank you, Michael said. And there were tears in his eyes now. I wanted to tell her that I don't blame her for the accident, that I understand it was a mistake, a horrible mistake, but that I'm grateful she tried to make it right. I'm grateful she gave me a chance at a good life. She's gone, I said gently. I know. The bank told me when I called about the stopped payment, and I realized I'd missed my chance to tell her. He wiped his eyes. So, I'm telling you instead, I'm telling you that Margaret Foster was a good person who made a terrible mistake and spent her whole life trying to make up for it. And she did. She gave me everything my dad would have wanted for me. We sat in that cafe for 2 more hours. Michael told us about his life, about growing up with his mother's stories of Patrick, about choosing emergency medicine because he wanted to save lives the way his father's couldn't be saved. He told us about his fiancée, about their wedding planned for next spring, and we told him about Margaret, about the kindergarten teacher who kept every drawing her students made her, who cried at graduation ceremonies, who made chocolate chip cookies every Sunday, about the woman who planted a maple tree and loved watching it grow, about the mother who never missed a baseball game or a school play, who always knew the right thing to say when we were hurting. She sounds wonderful, Michael said. I replied, she was also human. She made a mistake, a devastating mistake, and it shaped the rest of her life. As we stood to leave, Michael pulled something from his pocket. It was an envelope worn at the edges. This was the last card she sent me. It came about a week before she died. I think maybe she knew somehow that it would be the last one. He handed it to me. Inside was a simple birthday card. No signature, just a handwritten note. Your father would be so proud of the man you've become. I know I am. May you always use your gifts to help others with love. Can I keep this? I asked. No, Michael said, but maybe we could keep in touch. I'd like to know my cousins. He looked at James and Robert. If that's okay. James, the lawyer, the practical one, the one who I thought would be the most upset about all this, surprised me. I'd like that, he said. Family should know each other. We exchanged phone numbers, made plans to have dinner the following week, and when Michael left, walking down Moody Street toward his car, I watched him go and saw Patrick in his stride. That night, back home, I sat in the living room with both my sons. The house felt different now. Not emptier, exactly, but charged with a new understanding. Are you angry at Mom? Robert asked me. I thought about it. Was I angry? At the lie? Yes. At the secret? Yes. At the burden she'd carried alone? Not at Margaret herself? No. I said finally, I'm sad. Sad that she felt she had to hide this from me. Sad that she lived with this guilt for so long. Sad that she died without knowing Michael forgave her. She paid for it, James said. Literally over $1 million. It wasn't about the money, I said. It was about trying to give back a life she felt she'd taken. And in a way, she did. Michael is alive today, successful, helping people because of what she did. That doesn't erase the accident, but it means something. Do we tell people? Robert asked about what really happened. No, I said the truth died with Patrick and Margaret. Michael knows. We know, and that's enough. Let people remember Margaret as the woman she was, not the mistake she made. A week later, we had dinner at my house. James brought his wife and kids. Robert came with his girlfriend, and Michael came with his fiancée, a pediatric nurse named Sarah. We ate lasagna, Margaret's recipe that I'd made from her handwritten cards in the kitchen. We looked at photo albums. We told stories, and at one point, Michael asked if he could see the maple tree Margaret had planted. We walked outside into the cool November evening, and he stood there looking up at its bare branches. My dad loved trees, he said. My mom told me he wanted to be a forester when he was a kid. Margaret never told me that, I said. There's probably a lot they didn't tell each other, but they were family, and now we are too. I visit Margaret's grave every Sunday. It's at St. Joseph Cemetery in West Roxbury under an oak tree. I bring flowers. I sit on the bench nearby and talk to her like she's still here. Michael came to dinner. I told her last Sunday, he's exactly like Patrick. You did good, Margaret. You can't bring Patrick back, but you gave his son everything he needed. That matters. That means something. The wind rustled through the oak leaves, and I imagined it was her response, an acceptance, a relief. I forgive you, I said, for lying, for hiding this, for carrying it alone. I forgive you. And more importantly, Michael forgives you. He wanted me to tell you that he doesn't blame you. He's grateful. He's happy. He's alive and whole and good, and that's because of you. I don't know if the dead can hear us. I don't know if Margaret knows that her secret is out, that we've met Michael, that we're building something new from the wreckage of her past. But I choose to believe she does. I choose to believe she's finally at peace, because here's what I've learned. We're all carrying something. Some secret, some shame, some moment we wish we could undo. Margaret carried the weight of her brother's death for 28 years. She paid for it in money, in guilt, in sleepless nights I probably mistook for middle-age insomnia. But she also paid forward. She gave Michael a future. She turned her mistake into meaning. And in the end, isn't that all any of us can do? Acknowledge what we've broken and try in whatever way we can to mend it. I'm 67 years old. I've been married, raised children, built a career. I thought I knew everything about life. But Margaret taught me one last lesson after death. That love sometimes means bearing a burden alone. That guilt can be transformed into generosity. And that families are built not just from blood and marriage, but from choices, from showing up, from trying to make things right. Michael is having dinner with us again next Sunday. He wants to bring wedding invitations. Wants us there when he marries Sarah. Wants James and Robert to stand with him. Wants, in his words, to have my father's family there since he can't be, and I'll be there. Margaret would want that. She'd want us to embrace Michael, to give him the family Patrick couldn't. She'd want us to see her 28-year act of penance, not as deception, but as love in the only form she knew how to give. So, that's my story. That's what the bank manager meant when he said, "Don't come alone." Because the truth Margaret left behind wasn't something any one of us could carry alone. It took all of us, me, James, Robert, and Michael, to understand it, to accept it, to move forward with it. My wife killed her brother in a moment of thoughtless anger. She lied about it to everyone, including me. She paid for that lie for 28 years, and then she died, leaving us to sort through the wreckage. But here's the thing. I don't love her any less. If anything, I understand her more. I understand the weight she carried, the fear that kept her silent, the determination that made her keep paying, keep trying, keep hoping that somehow someday it would be enough. It was enough. Margaret, Michael told me to tell you it was more than enough. You gave him a life. You gave him the chance to save others. You gave him the family he lost when Patrick died. And you gave me one more reason to love you, your capacity to turn regret into redemption and death into life. Rest easy, my love. Your secret is safe with us, your debt is paid. And your family, all of it. The family you bore and the family you helped raise is together. That's what you wanted all along, isn't it? For Michael to be okay. For us to be okay. For the Foster and Sullivan names to be connected not by tragedy but by love. We're okay, Margaret. We're going to be okay. And so I think our